We are going to Washington, D.C.
8 years ago, candidate Trump promised.
We are going to drain the swamp.
The swamp is the Washington bureaucracy that slows everything down.
The lobbyist, the special interest.
Once president, Trump said he was succeeding.
We're draining the Washington swamp.
But that's not true.
He made government bigger. That's going in the wrong direction.
Economist Ed Stringham.
I was looking through a list of some of the agencies, and every single one I could see there were more employees after his presidency than before.
He did cut a few things, but overall spending under Trump nearly doubled. Some was a response to COVID, but Trump increased spending before COVID too. He even bragged about it.
$2.5 billion, $3 billion, $50 billion. We've spent $2.5 trillion.
All that spending increased the size of the swamp.
The U.S. budget deficit is soaring under President Trump.
We launched the Farmers to Families Food Box Program.
Something called a food box program brought food from farmers to families, costing taxpayers $6 billion.
Last I checked, we have an industry for that. It's called the supermarket industry. It exists for a reason. Markets are good at getting things from the farmer to the consumer.
With the $50 million commitment.
Trump also pandered to women, signing a Women, Peace and Security Act, the Women Entrepreneurship Act, a Women's Global Prosperity Initiative.
The United States will continue to empower women financially.
All these made the swamp bigger. So did Trump's expensive gifts to politically connected industry, the American Broadband Initiative, a National Quantum Act, the Secure 5G Act. This brought new parasites to Washington.
What are you doing in my swamp?
Whatever they're doing, they're here to stay.
Once government implements a program, it becomes very difficult to roll that back. You've created a whole new constituency of lobbyists who love their new sets of income.
Love them enough to preserve them forever. Years ago, Congress, fearing America wouldn't have enough mohair for soldiers' uniforms, subsidized mohair production. They still subsidize it.
We haven't used mohair in a military uniform since the Korean War. This is a true fleecing of America.
We still have this subsidy written into the budget to subsidize the mohair growing industry. You see a lot of programs sticking around well past their alleged usefulness, and we're stuck with it because now there's a whole group of new people on the payroll who like what they have.
Some are paid to make pennies. Most Americans no longer want pennies, but government still makes them at a cost of 3 cents each. 3 cents to make 1 cent, losing taxpayers $100 million a year. That's government.
Here we are, $8.3 billion.
At least now Trump acknowledges his failure to drain the swamp.
Now, when I said it, it sounded very easy, and it was going to happen real fast. I didn't know the swamp was this dirty and this deep.
But if you elect me again, he says,
We will drain the swamp once and for all.
You didn't drain the swamp like you said you would. You didn't drain the swamp.
I did. I fired Comey. I fired a lot of people.
I fired a lot of people.
He fired a couple people, but hiring additional people for these government jobs, that's not draining the swamp. That's making things worse.
Because once you increase the number of government employees, it's not like you can just fire them later.
Gen Z and millennials found a little hack, looking to lock down government jobs for security.
This silly reporter treats this like a good thing.
Workers in the public sector hold their jobs for 3 more years.
They have additional layers of protection.
This popular YouTuber works for the government. He sees how hard it is to fire anyone.
Bad employees, they can show up late. They cannot show up at all. They can show up drunk.
Instead of hiring more government workers, Trump could have turned to the private sector.
Privatize, privatize, privatize. Government doesn't need to be doing all these things when we have markets.
Markets work better. British-owned Jaguar lost millions. But after Britain sold Jaguar, its greedy investors quickly started making cars that pleased customers. Now the company makes a profit, supporting 200,000 people around the world. No tax dollars needed.
Eastern Europe privatizing Skoda. Sweden, they privatized Absolute Vodka. The more that government gets out of those industries, the better those industries become.
Even things people assume can only be done by government often work better when private operators create them. People think building subways to move lots of people, many of them poor, would never be profitable enough to appeal to private companies. If you ask people who built the subways, they say,
I think it was the government.
Either President Eisenhower or maybe like a mayor.
The truth is, most of the subways were built by private companies.
The private subways were actually clean, nice. They had private police on the private subways. And it was only after decades of price controls by the government that the private subways could no longer stay in business.
The government objected when the private operator tried to raise the fare from a nickel to a dime.
And the minute that the government took over, they raised the prices themselves.
They doubled them, then kept raising the price. Government is inferior to private operators in so many ways. The post office said it couldn't get it there overnight. But Federal Express showed it could.
We have thousands of employees working throughout the wee hours of the morning.
Compare that to the post office.
Of course nobody needs mail.
Seinfeld's nemesis Newman was a postal worker for a reason.
I'll handle this, Violet. Why don't you take your 3-hour break?
Trump didn't privatize the post office or any government agency. But Trump did do some deregulation.
At the end of the day, government spending increased dramatically. I don't see that as draining the swamp. I see that as making the swamp a lot bigger and a lot murkier.
Even brash outsiders like Donald Trump get stuck in the Washington swamp. There's only one way to drain it.
We need to not have the government in control of so many things.
The swamp doesn't have a political party. If you like that we at Stossel TV challenge both ruling parties, please click that button to help us make more.